Welcome to Concussion Recovery in 5 minutes, where we spend 5 minutes discussing some pertinent information that you need for healing for concussion. I'm Dr. Brittni Charle. I am a licensed physical therapist, and I have been treating people post-concussion and post-brain injury for nearly a decade. And I'm here to bring you this valuable information from the clinic to online. 5 minutes, ready, set, go. So there is a very big misconception about what it means when a doctor tells you to rest. So a lot of people have this experience where they get a concussion, they go to the emergency room, or if they don't go to the emergency room, maybe they'll go see their primary care physician and they will be diagnosed with the concussion and they will be told to rest until their symptoms improve. Now, that's actually very vague information because rest is actually many different things. Most people, when we hear rest, we think of what is known as physical rest. But guess what? There are 7 different types of rest. So if you're thinking about physical rest, then you're probably laying on the couch, you're probably resting in bed, you're taking a nap, you're kicking your feet up. Those are all different forms of physical rest. But that is not the most important type of rest for your brain. The most important type of rest is called sensory rest. When you think of sensory rest, think of just all your senses that you use to process your environment around you. Your eyes for your visual system, your nose for your olfactory system, what you smell, your ears for what you hear, so the auditory system, and then our ears are also very helpful for us staying stable and balanced, and that's known as our vestibular system. And then we have our tactile system, right, where we feel different textures, a lot of times through the hands, but it could be really anywhere on the body. And then also what we call our proprioceptive system, which is how we know where our body is in space without actually looking. So if I'm looking away, I know that this is my arm without having to look at it. That is my proprioceptive system. Okay, so we need to take sensory rest because all of those different senses are being processed by our brain. And in today's modern society, our senses are constantly on. We're actually kind of overstimulated in today's world because we just constantly have different things around us. We're constantly being pressured to multitask and engage multiple senses and systems at the same time. And if you continue to do that while your brain is trying to heal from a brain injury, it's going to significantly slow down your recovery. Here are some examples of everyday items and activities that you might consider modifying in the name of sensory rest. One, being on our phones. So when we're on our phones, we're looking at things. The scrolling is very heavily visual. So we're engaging our eyes, our visual system. And imagine that if you are just scrolling, it's really easy to scroll constantly. You might look up and all of a sudden you've been on your phone for 30 minutes. Well, that was 30 minutes of your brain non-stop having to process that information when it could have been healing from the brain injury. There's actually a study, it's only one study, but this was back in 2019, where the researchers looked at people post-concussion, but very recent, like within a couple of days, and they looked at a group of people who just use their phone without any restrictions, use it as how they normally would, and then another group who was told to actually abstain from being on the phone. And so they were on the phone for, I want to say, less than 10 minutes per day. They did this for 2 days and noticed that the group who was not on their phone healed several days quicker than the group that was on their phone with no restrictions. So that is one way that you can cut down on sensations, on being overly stimulated. So sensory rest, being on the phone less. Same thing with, let's say, loud noises. So this wouldn't be the time to go to a concert where it's actually very visual and very auditory. Same thing with work and school. A lot of times it's very just demanding on our different systems. We have to look, we have to see, we have to hear, we have to comprehend. It's all a lot for our different systems. So again, this does not mean that you withdraw completely. It just means that you would cut back. So you might put a timer for how long that you are on the phone or on the computer, or the television, even the radio. just making sure that you're keeping in mind that it's your brain that's having to process these things. And so it's actually much less demanding to be just in an environment basically without electronics. So when you're just, say, in your room and you're hearing the sound of, cars drive by, or you're hearing the sound of, somebody putting away some dishes or something in your home, those things are very much farther and few between compared to when you're on, let's say, your digital devices. Okay, that's time for me. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, remember that sensory rest is very important and often overlooked with concussion recovery. And I hope that you enjoyed this one. Again, I am Dr. Brittni Charle, helping you to make sense of concussion recovery.